Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to another Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is number 62 for February the 18th, 2025. So, Kevin, welcome back to the land of the internet as well. So, man, it's a stark reminder how dependent we are on stable internet, right?
Stable internet, yeah. Even lo-fi internet isn't good enough. It's got to be Vichy water or nothing. So yeah,
exactly.
As a man old enough to remember the transition from rotary phones to digital phones and all of that, and then the internet through acoustic couplers, to lose modern internet for a couple of days can be a pain, a chore.
Yeah, and in some cases, depending on what you do, debilitating, like impacts your ability to do work and everything else. And yeah, we are not the cavemen of yesteryear anymore.
Let's hope the sun is stable and doesn't have any flares for us, because I don't think this society could handle that.
No, it would be chaos for sure. Well, that being said, let's jump into it. So, Kevin, what are we going to do today to change my mind?
Well, it's a contentious topic, really, which is it time that we rebrand the term amusement? Just to clarify this a little bit, I've been doing some projects recently for clients, and I had a previous client who actually docked me a percentage of my fee for a particular consultancy every time in the report that I was doing for him I used the word amusement. It was a tongue-in-cheek point, because his investors were dead set against amusement. They didn't like amusement. They didn't like the baggage or the connotation that the phrase amusement brought to the table, literally. And we have noticed a number of Japanese amusement divisions and a number of American amusement divisions also staying away. And the most recent example we've had of that is our friends at Bandai Namco. Their Japanese amusement unit, which has recently announced that it is restructured, reopened, and it is now the Bandai Namco Experience division or unit. And the reason behind that is because they don't just do amusement facilities. They have branded sites, the cross-store operation, which is the picture that you see there, is not really an amusement facility. It is a gashipo entertainment and merchandising facility. They also do exhibitions and attractions. They're very much heavy on their IP and their crane business. And so from their perspective, just saddling themselves with the amusement could be seen as old hat, retro. Actively, it is not that exciting a term, and it has got a lot of baggage to it. Amusement is linked to gaming and gambling in some people's perceptions, or to coin-op and all of the problems that coin-op has had. So it was interesting to see that. We have also in the US a number of what I would call IP divisions, intellectual property divisions of larger brands, toy brands, and film studios. And we're seeing the word experience being used a lot there. And it seems to be an understanding that the new generation of entertainment operations that have an out-of-home entertainment mix are focusing on the experience rather than on the amusement. And I'm going to hold a gun to your head. What's your definition of amusement, Brandon?
Well, so yeah, this is. I have a lot of opinions here, or just thoughts and questions. So first of all, I think if you're to rebrand the term amusement, then I think we have to think about, okay, what does amusement as a type of attraction? So the definition of amusement I pulled up here is the state or experience of finding something funny. Okay, that's not it. The provision or enjoyment of entertainment. Okay, potentially, and then something that causes laughter or provides entertainment. And so, I think if we think of video games, redemption machines, merchandisers, that's a form of entertainment, and those amusement machines are providing entertainment. So first of all, from a definition standpoint, okay, maybe it fits. But I do wonder, like, if we don't use the term amusement, what are we going to use to brand that type of attraction? Because the attraction mix and those types of attractions aren't going away. They're evolving. But yes, there's a lot of baggage with that name. I also have a problem with the term entertainment in general, mostly as we're looking at the evolution of what we're doing and what we're doing in the broader location-based quote unquote entertainment industry, or the mixed-use leisure entertainment, as you refer to these facilities. And the word entertainment to me, and the same thing as amusement, because they're very similar, is that it's a passive thing. So I am being entertained. I am being amused by the things that are around me. And I feel like this is where we sometimes get mixed up with going and watching some show in Las Vegas, for example, that is a form of entertainment, because that truly is, in most cases, a passive form of experiencing something. What we're having today is this, forms of experience, which is why Bandai Namco has rebranded their company to have the term experience in it. It's why we went with LBX, location-based experience, versus entertainment as well. So I do have a problem with just those words in general, but then we do have to think about what words are we going to use to describe the three, what I would bucket under the three things that sit under that amusements bucket, right? The merchandisers, redemption, and video, right? And there's a bunch of subsets underneath each one of those as well, but those would be the three main buckets. So yeah, I don't have an answer, but I think it is a really interesting question. And what should we, because those are also much more interactive than they are passive as well.
You must have read the report I put together, because that was exactly the point: passive and interactive. So gamification is the technical term, and we can't use technical terms to the general public, but for the discussion behind the curtain, as it were, experiential is what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to offer experiential process where the individual will come in and undertake processes and activities that will draw them into the environment, cause them to spend money or to want to dwell longer, and so generating the revenue that we have to as a business. With that experiential, we offer two types. We offer the passive side, where you watch and have the experience applied to you, or you have the active side, where you are a participant. You actually have navigation through the experience. There is a narrative that you can follow. That's very theme parky. That's me kind of showing my Disney roots. But it leads towards the thinking for the modern market that we're in, what I would call the location-based entertainment market that these companies are in, where previously they would have seen themselves in the amusement market. They are now in the experience market. They're dealing with intellectual properties. They're dealing with games which have narratives and gamification. They're dealing with merchandising and product and branding. And IP and branding are difficult bedfellows at the best of times. They're also dealing with film properties, those IPs coming from films. So this is an overarching media-based conglomerate. This is an overarching operation that's dealing with the players, the games, the applications, and the facilities, the bricks and mortar. And the word amusement doesn't cut it. So that is final. I'm sorry for those in the amusement industry that feel that they have a brand and a name that is suitable. I'm sure the people in the buggy whip and horse and cart industry felt exactly the same way when the first of the Model T Ford showrooms started up. The factor is that we are in an evolving industry, and we have to evolve with it, or we will be left with the dinosaurs. And so experiential is not a suitable word. Experience is, for future-proofing yourself against what's coming next. Entertainment, as you said, isn't a suitable word because it is too broad and it is too nebulous to define. So we have to make it our own. And as you posited the question, where do amusement machines, video amusement machines, redemption amusement machines fit into that mix. I get the feeling that they'll always be called amusement machines, though the market that they're in may not be the amusement market. It's going to be painful, especially if, as I think is going to happen, the big IP properties decide to take over the market. They see a opportunity to walk in to an industry that hasn't evolved, that hasn't grown with the time, which is greatly undervalued, and is in a period of insurgence or resurgence. And if a couple of very large corporations and financial investors decided to start buying up amusement companies, they wouldn't have to dig too much into their wallets to achieve that. And in creating a unique operation, they can then tailor it to meet the requirements of the modern audience, because no one's given us a God-given right to exist. Our audience has. And if we are not applying product to our audience, if we are not shaping our experience to suit the audience, if we're not building facilities to facilitate what those audiences want, then we deserve to be pushed aside. And I can give you a perfect example of an industry that went through this, and that was the vending industry. Back 20, 30, 40 years, when I first had dealings with the vending industry, it was an industry that was undervalued. They were in the box moving business rather than in the product delivery business. There were over 50 or 60 different US distributors, all fighting against each other, but also all gatekeeping to ensure that the status quo. And then along came the internet, and along came connectivity, and then the Internet of Things that really is only being applied in the vending industry and in the commercial industry rather than the consumer industry yet. And when you had connected vending machines that were able to tell operators that, hey, I'm running out of chocolate bars, please come and fill me up, or hey, I've sold X chocolate bars this week, I'm seeing a trend in chocolate bars, I need to have more chocolate bars in me rather than soft drinks. When the machines got to that level of smartness, then you didn't need 60 distributors, you only needed 3. And then suddenly the market stopped being about moving machines around various localities to managing the machines, the latest connected machines to each location, and then monitoring the trends and working with the chocolate bar manufacturers to make their products suitable for their vending machines. It's one of those problems, the tail wagging the dog. We in the amusement industry have the machines steering our business, when really it should be the players' habits steering our business, the fashions, what they're prepared to play, what they would like to do. We should be speaking with them. And we're one of those entertainment industries that doesn't speak with them. So I'm going to go with rebrand the word amusement to social experience. And I look forward to watching the fur fly in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, coming up next, we're going to dive into the latest trends in the biz.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
All right, Kevin, let's dive into the latest trends for the entertainment space.
What is it today? Today is Be Contentious Day. So I've been holding off on this topic since January the 20th because we need to deal with it. We are an industry, be it amusement, attraction, or experience industry, that is dependent on international business. We buy products from around the world. We operate facilities around the world. We have to be able to deal easily with commerce on an international basis. And sometimes things come along that shake up our ability to do that. And a new administration within the US has come in and brought in some very brand new thinking to how they want to do business on an international basis. And that will have impacts on our operation, on our industries, all aspects of our industry. We saw at IALPA a considerable number of exhibitors from China already talking about how they were going to change their business activities with the US to get around the possibilities of tariffs. The imposing of a surtax upon products being imported into that particular country. From the reality and the bluster, because there does seem to be a lot of saber rattling going on at the moment, the new administration does prefer to go for the real estate bluster rather than the boring dependency on what I would call traditional political positioning and posturing.
Positive, you mean positive country relations and trade alliances?
That kind of thing, Okay. Picking a fight with Canada is not how the previous administration would have addressed the deficit in their financial transfer. Whatever the reasons and whatever your positions here, I'm a consultant. You give me lemons and I have to work out how much sugar and water I have to pour on them to turn them into lemonade. And so the situation here is fundamentally China has had tariffs imposed on them, additional to the previous tariffs that they've had. Canada, Mexico, and Europe had, up until the time of recording this podcast, had the threat of tariffs placed upon them, but then they had been given a stay of 30 to 40 days while their negotiations were done. I'm led to believe from the latest news that Canada and Mexico agreed to certain concessions, the placement of a drug czar, the promise of greater policing of borders, and those tariffs have been, for the period, removed off the table, and the European tariffs have been forgotten due to various reasons. But new tariffs have been added to the mix with the announcement that additional surcharges will be placed on imports of aluminium and iron, or steel, sorry. And as an industry that uses a hell of a lot of aluminium and a little bit of steel, that has also additional impacts to our business. We also have a tertiary impact, which is regarding China. There was the proposal that packages and postal deliveries coming direct from China were going to be suspended, and that possible surcharges or additional fees were going to be added onto that. That makes it difficult for operators of Chinese machines wanting spare parts delivered to them, as well as the merch and all of the other items that we have been using the postal delivery service just in time to supply those components directly from the manufacturer. And then famously, all of these tariffs, all of this speculation, all of the issues has led to stagflation, which is no matter what the realities of all of these tariffs and all of these legislational taxations or limitations on the import of product, it has caused ripple through the markets. We have seen stock prices fall, we have seen share prices fall, and we have now seen the spectre, not of recession. The R word seems to be off many financial people's lips, but the alternative phraseology of stagflation has now been parachuted into this. So to my point, why we're getting political with this particular part of Sound Off is how much of all of these ramifications and jubilations are going to cause impact to our industry. And I would say that's a lot. Brandon?
Yes, I do think that this is going to, whether they remain suspended, whether they come back in, whether This is a situation where wherever the current administration sees some sort of international problem, they have one hammer, and that is tariffs, and they see every international problem as a nail. And this is not the end we're going to hear of tariffs for the next 4 years. And so it's the part of the difficulty here is its uncertainty. How do you plan if you can, let's say there's going to be a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, and that holds, okay, you can begin to build plans around it. Is it going to increase costs? Absolutely. Is it going to increase the end cost to the buyer and ultimately to the consumer for when it comes to actually playing the games? Absolutely. But you can at least plan around it. Part of the difficulty here is the uncertainty of one day it's on, one day it's off, another week it's on, another week it's off. Oh, there might be something coming down the road because the current administration sees another nail and they have to swing the same hammer again for some other country where there's some other supply that's going to be impacted. So it's the uncertainty that I think is the bigger issue here than perhaps the tariffs themselves, though I think the tariffs will be severely damaging to a broad swath of not just the U.S. economy, but also other economies that have the tariffs imposed upon them. So this is definitely something we should be watching closely. And I'm sure the manufacturers and suppliers are, but as we know, the trickle-down effect impacts the operators of the venues, the route operators of the routes, as well as then ultimately the consumer who is swiping their card, or if you're in some backward arcade, dropping in coins. So to be watched for sure.
The trickle down. I'm old enough to remember Reaganomics, and the argument about trickle down. The only time I ever saw trickle down work is in the reverse, the impact rather than in the rise. Right. We've never seen a discounting in tax. We've always seen an increase in tax, and this is an indirect tax through export. Tariff and tax begin with T's for very important reasons, but I won't go into that point. The point that I make from our industry is that we are an industry that undervalues the entertainment experience that we offer, or the product that we offer. And we were naturally at a point where we were going to have to bite the bullet and increase the price of our entertainment experience to meet the realities of inflation. If you just look at the price of eggs, it will tell you that we need to reposition the offering that we're doing. But if we're increasing our prices, but that increase isn't generating more revenue for us because it's being eaten up in tariffs, then or taxational impacts, be you in any country in the world, then you need to be mindful of this. And the only thing that I can recommend for our industry is that our trade associations need to come up with a very active plan of action of how they're going to defend their membership against the vagaries of these winds that are blowing at the moment, and also coming up with a unifying agreement across all of the aspects of the industry. So the bowling industry isn't doing one thing, and the amusement industry is doing another thing, and the water parks are doing another thing, and the theme parks. We should all come together as an entertainment industry and come up with a centralized plan, and hopefully work with our friends in the cinema and movie industry, as well as our friends in the intellectual property industry. Anyway, enough of the crystal ball and speculation. Let's look across to a little bit of positivity, because our industry is full of positivity, no matter the impacts or the storms that we have to weather outside. Our friends at Fair Games, Brandon and myself, had a chance to visit the flagship Fair Games facility in Canary Wharf in London, a competitive socializing area that has been modeled on a midway fairground style approach, very strong F&B, very strong entertainment, interactive gaming environment. And it was built as a proof of concept towards rolling out. And only a matter of days ago or weeks ago now, the company announced that it had received a multi-million pound investment raise from key investment houses. This goes on top of the 5 million that the operation had previously raised, and that they're now looking at US chains of this facility, as well as increasing the number of UK. We had the news that they were planning their second UK facility, and now with the raise of this investment capital, I think that we can expect to see at least 20 of these facilities in the next 5 years. This was one of your favorites, Brandon.
Yeah, this is one I'm super excited about. Because of the potential. I know that when we talked about it, I can't remember in which sound off we discussed this, but when we did discuss it, it was there's some areas where they could make some improvements, some of the gameplay, some of the pricing and packaging. But I'm excited about this because it is a totally new, vibrant type of attraction mix. And I think it will do really well in the U.S. market. And I'm excited to see in their next location in London, because it'll probably open before they actually find a site in the U.S., to see what key learnings they've come away with from their first operations, see where they make changes to the layout, to the food and beverage offerings, to the overall gameplay. So it will be exciting to see what they've learned. And hopefully they have learned a few things and it's not just a carbon copy.
I get the feeling that when you do a investment raise of this amount, the full amount hasn't been made public, but that there are rumors regarding how much they've raised, it is quite a sea change. They will become a serious player in the market with this investment, and they will have to stand up to the changing market, because they're not the only game in town. When they created the first Fair Games, they were making a lot of these concepts up. They were making a lot of assumptions. They've learned a lot of lessons. And if they haven't learned the lessons, everybody watching their openings have. I can tell you that I've had to undertake very detailed studies of how the Fair Games operation works, and what worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. And I hope that internally they have gone through the same process. And I look forward to seeing the new management board level group that will be put in place take this to the next level. Anyway, moving on. And merger, acquisition, and IP consolidation are the order of the day. If it's consolidating your competitive socializing venue, or if it's or consolidating your IP sales. And our friends at Sega Japan, Tomy and Mitsubishi have sat down in a darkened room over the last couple of weeks and months and decided that they will be creating a North American operation, which will focus on the deployment of their IP, their Japanese IP, into the Western market. Predominantly that IP that is going into toy machines, capsule machines, and claw machines. So I would call these prize merchandise focused business units. This will be a standalone company that will undertake this. It will be located in the US, as far as we know, and that is as far as we know. More details will be made clear in the next couple of months, but it looks like we're going to be in a position of seeing another Sega at IALPA. And for all of us that remembered last year, the confusion we had with the IP branding booth or lounge that was co-sponsored by Sega Corporation, as well as the Sega Amusement International booth on the show floor, we will have to now understand that we will be dealing with a similar process in the future of Sega Amusement International, which is an amusement machine manufacturer, is also involved in facility operations through the ownership of Funbox, but also sells IP and branded merch to populate the products that they sell in their crane division. Will also now have to compete with or work with, depending on how this goes forwards, a Sega merchandising IP amusement product provider. Again, we don't know if it will be called Sega or if it'll be called STM or whatever, but this is quite a major development, especially considering how successful Tomy and Sega have been, as well as Mitsubishi, with their IP on an international basis. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog has seen $1 billion franchise success with their movies. And with those movies, we've seen the merchandising and the toy brands succeed over that. Tomy their Japanese anime and specialized toy brands are hugely successful from the collectible market in the West, as well as their life as cartoon properties on many of the streaming services. So this is quite a powerful IP entrant, and I am surprised not more of our international media covered this, but c'est la vie. Any comments, Brandon?
No major comments other than the fact that my son, when he was younger, was a massive Beyblade fan, and that's a very popular Takara Tomy brand. And so, that's he's outgrown those now, but he was definitely a major fan. And you're right, like that level of IP is massive here.
And I think many people have forgotten how important these Japanese IP are to the general entertainment zeitgeist. And with the possibility of more films being developed based on IP from these corporations, rumor has it that there is a House of the Dead movie being considered now after the success of Sonic. I wouldn't be surprised that the Sega Tomy Mitsubishi merchandising operations presence at the International Licensing Expo will be considerable. We touched upon it on Open and Shut, that the Emoji Planet concept, we've already touched upon it being tested and a demonstration site being developed by Unis for one of their distributor open days in China. Well, the first of the Emoji Planet entertainment facilities is being parachuted into Melbourne in the UK. They're working with their UK distributor. They've already got the before and after pictures of the retail space as it's being transformed into this yellow, black and red experience. I'm happy I don't have to work in there 24 hours, but it is going to be a highly compelling merchandising, prize and amusement space based upon this very popular IP. And we look forward to seeing how the audience reacts to this experience. But it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about with the need to change the phrase amusement and the move towards more IP-driven applications. Here is a space that is going to be very hard to call an amusement space, but it will be very easy to call an entertainment space.
Yeah. I'll just quickly say while I'm not while I don't understand the allure behind the emoji brand and just emojis in general, other than the fact that I do use them, it is they've done an excellent job really embracing that IP and leveraging it across the board. So kudos to the guys over at Unis and the work that they've done here, because it definitely creates a singular experience around this brand.
I was very impressed when I saw their mock-up of what they intended to build, and it's nice to see that it wasn't just hype, but they are actually going to achieve the level of engagement that they previewed. I talked about this a couple of sound-offs, and it has been confirmed, so it's nice that our sources are on the ball. Our friends at iWorks announced their rebranding. They have a brand new logo. The word entertainment has been dropped from that logo, which is interesting. I wonder if that was just for the demonstration. But anyway, for those who aren't familiar, iWorks is was a major developer in the 4D theater market and the ride film development market, as well as the large format cinema. The company has gone through some major shakeups. Following the merger of Cimex and iWorks into the joint operation, they had a bit of a rough ride, but they spent a lot of money on IP. A lot of the ride films that they were developing were based upon film properties. Now they've had some restructuring. Our sources say that they've received major investment from an outside Asian source. Again, we need to get more clarity on that. But whatever the case is, they've rebranded, they've relaunched their website. Brand new identity was mentioned in the press release. And they've moved to a management-owned status. I expect at IALPA to see a lot more of really what is going to change within the company, how much of the business that they've previously done is going to be changed for their new focus, as well as the possibility that they're going to be working on a different approach to their IP licensed films being sold to entertainment venues. I don't know if you have much interest in this one, Brandon.
I mean, I was a fan of the products that they were producing and their experience they're producing prior to, I guess their bankruptcy. But I'm not a fan of their new logo. But it is. But I'm glad to hear that they're back and that they are going to continue to produce things. So I hope that under the new management-owned status that they'll be able to have a lot more success in the future.
Yeah, I hope that. The success, it floats all boats. Is the phrase that everybody likes to use, but this is an important one to have a company with such a legacy in our industry and such a cachet. It's not good to see them go into that kind of insolvency, and to see them come out of it. We would like to see at least the professional move forward towards the future of our sector. Talking about the tech trends, and we're going to be flooded. The opening in May of Epic Universe has got everybody on tenterhooks, who is a theme park, Universal, and movie IP fan. Even if you're not a fan, it's worth getting your chance to walk around what will be an amazing development. I really have to take my hat off to the Universal R&D team. They've really outdone themselves from what I have seen from the behind the scenes of what they've done with Epic Universe. And we're beginning to hear a lot more about the future proofing of this facility and what they've developed to make this environment compelling and to increase their dwell time. And interactivity and gamification plays a major part across all of the lands in this new opening, but especially in the Harry Potter the Wizarding World of Harry Potter land that will inhabit. They've re-entered the wands and the movement of wands in certain ways at certain localities within the environment will cause physical show set to do special things. That's how it previously was. Underplayed, but it was a component. Now the new generation of wands are really going to interact more with the environment and with the physicality of the venue. So my favorite phygital comment is being writ large here, where the digital interactivity that you expect from video gaming is being applied to the physical environment. And I don't know how much of that is being influenced by Universal's involvement with the Super Nintendo world and their augmented reality experience. But that was one of the big announcements so far regarding Epic Universe. If we jump over to our friends at Wolf Lodge, they can say hold our beer, because they were the originators of the wand systems. And it was just interesting while I was doing my research that we're kind of marking an anniversary for the wand systems. It's coming up to over 20 years since the Magic Quest wand systems were deployed into the first of the Great Wolf Lodge sites, and has become a very loved component of these venues. And I notice the new updated Great Wolf Lodge openings that have been taking place still push the Magic Quest component front and center, even though I would argue that it does need a little bit more technology shot in the arm to bring it up to modern standards.
Yeah, this is, I've been a big fan of Magic Quest since the first time I experienced it, which wasn't actually until 2010. So definitely a few years after, but it was actually at a Great Wolf Lodge, which I think it might've been shortly after that they ended up acquiring Magic Quest and bringing them in-house under the Great Wolf Lodge brand. But not only is it a massive opportunity to enhance the guest experience, like my kids, all the way up until just the last time we were even at Great Wolf Lodge 2 years ago, just run around the entire facility and love playing the game. but it's a massive merchandise opportunity. You can go and you can customize your wands. You can add crystals to them, which give you extra powers. And it's a great way to, you basically, the things that you would normally buy in video game to enhance your skins, etc., or whatever, if you're a gamer, you're able to do in the physical world with your actual wands. My only disappointment with Great Wolf Lodge was that they really let their own internal IP develop separately from the Magic Quest IP, and there's really no good cohesion between the kitty wolves and different animals that are a part of the Great Wolf Lodge IP base with the Magic Quest game, and I think that they could have done a better job really blending those two worlds together.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've kept a very close eye on all levels of facility interactivity, from the most simplest, treasure hunt component all the way up to technology-infused wand systems. And when the first of the Magic Quest adventure systems was deployed in 2024, when we first looked at that, this was obviously, technology that we felt was ahead of its time. A couple of false starts by the Magic Quest team, and then finally, thankfully, it was brought into Great Wolf Lodge, and they sort of stopped their ambitions of being a location-based entertainment facility and then aimed at being an attraction. My argument, again, which you've touched upon, is that brand needs to be unified, brought in under a single. Last thing you want is a confused IP within your facility, especially when Great Wolf Lodge has gone to such a high degree of redeveloping and reinvesting themselves. So getting this sorted out, maybe coming up with a Magic Quest 2.0 would be a perfect timing. And it's not going to be virtual reality. It's going to be augmented reality. And it's not going to be glasses warm, but it's going to be phygital. It's easy for me to say that from the lofty stratosphere in which I inhabit, but on the ground floor, it is important that the audience is still entertained, and most important, you're dealing with an audience that is bringing in their children into your facility. So you have individuals that have grown up with the original Magic Quest now taking their kids to Great Wolf Lodge, and if you haven't done a generational progression where the parents can recognize elements from the new system and go, oh, I remember doing this, and encouraging their children to do this, then you're missing out. You're leaving lots of cheddar on the table. And those are the kinds of mismanagement problems that I hope that the new team will try and avoid from. I haven't done the Magic Quest virtual reality experience, and I don't know how much that crosses over with the Magic Quest wand experience. I look forward to reporting back on that at some point. Carrying on and talking about phygital and interactive spaces and using wands and interactive gamification, and our friends at Hello Park announced their Avatar Park 2.0, which is a new themality and new digital experiences for their Hello Park attraction. They have about 50 locations out there. They all have their own unique level of gamification. They are mainly projection-based experiences with some physicality, and now those wands are a little bit big. I don't think those are the type of wands that are used throughout the facility, but they are talking about with their new Avatar Park experience of having a lot more interactivity, a lot more gamification, just the need to keep up with what the competition is doing at the traditional sites means that they have to up the game for their phygital environment. This is, one of those trends that we've seen while we're talking about technology. We've seen an explosion in duckpin bowling. Read the slide. But we've also seen duckpin bowling used a lot more as a transitional component for boutique bowling. What we mean by boutique bowling is a much more laid-back approach, not the use of shoes, less on the scoring, more about the fun, less on the skill, more about the fun. This kind of approach where it's a group drink, laid-back environment that is much more compelling compared to the more sports bowling approach. The nice thing, of course, about duckpin bowling is that you have smaller balls, appealing to a wider audience, and you have shorter lanes, so meaning that you can put it into different locations. But it is important to spot that the social audience is embracing duckpin bowling a lot more than those in the traditional bowling industry would like, because if your warehouse is full of gravity bowling machinery, you're not really going to be jumping up and down with joy if the string bowling mechanical systems start eating your lunch. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I'm certainly fascinated. First of all, I think the question I have here is this funk bowling more like the new? I mean, funk bowling has been around for a long time.
Yes.
Is this new social, I guess, social boutique experience more like hyper bowling from Cubica, or is it more like Spark bowling from Brunswick, where hyper is more just lights and other things, where obviously Spark is projection mapped and you're interacting with the ball, across the lane? So I'm kind of, first of all, curious about that, if you know. Secondly, if you just ask for my opinion on mini bowling or duckpin versus traditional lanes, personally, I think that duckpin bowling is much more difficult. It is maybe more accessible, easier to quickly jump onto a lane, play a 15-minute game, with the small ball with fewer rounds. But the actual bowling experience, in my opinion, is not as enjoyable as a full bowling experience.
Well, one of the things about funk is that they've developed a very social entertainment infused platform. They have touchscreens for the operation of the lanes, but they also incorporate the ordering process. They've also gone for the colorization of their space, so they really do own the environment with themality, and their screen systems, though smaller than some of the larger projection screen systems, still create quite a compelling environment. The reason why I picked on funk is that they've had a number of very successful European installations. Some of them were actually signed off during their exhibition at IALPA Europe. And now in the next couple of months, we know that they're going to be announcing even more installations of their systems. And not to be left out, the Brunswicks and the AMGs of the industry have been working very hard to come up with their own duckpin platforms. Duckpin Social is the Brunswick system, which they've been promoting very heavily. And I say to most operators now that, if you're putting in a mixed-use leisure entertainment site, then you're going to have to make a serious decision on which side of the fence that you're going to go with. Are you going to go with a full bowling setup with all of its expense and size and operational issues, or are you going to pivot towards a duckpin?
Yeah, interesting.
Anyway, moving on and into the virtual reality world, we fall. There's been quite a three-way horse race going on at the moment. I call it a little bit of a battleground. Our friends at HTC in the location-based entertainment industry approach of virtual reality have been the successors. They have seen the biggest penetration of products into their market. But that all seems to be up for grabs, partly due to changes in operation, partly due to a need for cost-effective solutions for the systems, and partly due to there being a big enough industry out there now to warrant internecine war between these operators. HTC have now started to see serious competition from our friends at Pico and our friends at DPOO, or DPVR. And recently at the EAG show, we were able to sit down with our friends at Hero Zone VR and get to try out their progression, where they have migrated from originally being a user of the HTC Focus 3 platform for their Hero Zone VR enclosure or arena system. They have now migrated over to the Pico system, and they are now deploying Pico 4s I think they're Pico 4s in their venues, but they are using the Pico system. And we're beginning to see that across a lot of the operations where they're becoming head-mounted agnostic. They're not caring as much about supporting one platform against the other. They're developing their VR systems to be able to take whatever headset they can get their hands on and be supported by. And that's a key important analogy or issue to be aware of why we are at this point. It isn't just about the availability of the hardware. It is not just about the price of that hardware, but it is also about the quality of the service and support. The virtual reality technologies especially require a lot of service and support and updates and new firmware creations. And if those updates and support is not available, then it is difficult to field these type of systems into the market. And we saw that with our friends at Meta when they tried to pivot into working in the commercial enterprise sector with the inability to support to the level of engagement required by commercial utilization of their headsets. People just moved on to the alternatives, and that's where HTC succeeded. But HTC now finds itself suffering from this because they're running out of staff. And anyone that followed our recent sound off reveal, HTC signed a very nice agreement with Google where they sold a percentage of their R&D support as well as access to their IP to Google. I think it was for about 250 million, and that allows Google to jump pogo up their credibility of technology with their planned Android XR system. But in the same respects, that has impacted the level of support that HTC has been able to offer. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see even more ramifications of that sale being felt by the people on the periphery of the HTC sale.
Yeah, I think generally the more competition, I'm a competition fan. So the more that we can see this type of leveling up of enterprise VR is better across the board. But at the same time, one of the things that I do get concerned about is the longevity of a model that I might invest in. Let's say I have 10 Vive Focus 3s in my facility, and because of the competition and they're constantly iterating and evolving, the ability for HTC to continue to support my Focus 3s might wane over a faster period of time. Where with a consumer, they have one of these at home, they're going to just replace it with the next version, right? The next Quest 3 or Quest 4, or Quest 5, right? If they want to get the upgrade, they may or may not replace it, but they're not worried about repairing it, in the same way. They'll just buy a new one. When you have 10 of these in your facility, you have to repair it. You can't just go and buy a new one or 10 new ones every single time a new version comes out and one of yours goes down. So I do worry about their ability to support these at a true enterprise, like a true enterprise product model.
Yeah, it's important that not only do we see new entrants into the market, but we see new entrants that are prepared to offer a service and support operation that is not based in Beijing, but is based very close to where your facility is. I wouldn't be surprised in the next couple of months that we see a consolidation in support and maybe the creation of a company or an operation that acts like a distributor that looks after the maintenance and support and service of all of these headsets. Because to be blunt, there are enough headsets out there being used in location-based entertainment to be able to generate quite a nice big profit for a centralized operation that just focuses not on the games, not on the distribution, not on the licensing, but just on the care, the TLC of the head-mounted display system. The same way that in the projection industry or in the LED display industry, there are companies that specialize wholly on just supporting the display medium. This display medium needs some love. I wouldn't also be surprised if we don't see another entrant into the location-based entertainment head-mounted display industry. There are a couple of companies that are circling Infocom, we saw companies now talking about more joined up approaches to entering the commercial entertainment market. We're a hot industry at the moment, and especially with the immersive adventure business, where you've got groups of 45 individuals wandering around large experiences, then those venues that are sitting on 200 headsets per facility could also be a very profitable line of business. So again, watch this space, but also be prepared that the companies that you're working with now who are maybe using HTC headsets may be using someone else's headsets in a couple of months. Talking about headsets and virtual reality experiences, the last sound off, we revealed the announcement of Springboard being acquired by Synthesis VR. I wanted to make it clear at the time that Vertigo Games, the owner of Springboard VRs, even though they may have been selling Springboard, they still had an interest in location-based entertainment, and that was rammed home only a couple of days ago with the announcement that Arizona Sunshine 2 Remake Arcade Edition, interesting name, was being released onto the app services, so that could be available for venues. Arizona Sunshine is one of those legendary zombie shooter arena games that was very popular in the first flush of location-based VR. I think it was much more popular in location-based VR than it was actually in consumer VR, but again, it would be difficult to make that argument up other than my gut. But now with Arizona Sunshine 2 learning a lot of the lessons from the original and being made available, expect the VR free roaming operators to be very happy to have a new game in their bundle.
Yeah, this one is. I'm excited to give this a play because, this is a classic. Arizona Sunshine is a classic. It was one of the most popular games at the time to drive into location-based VR. So glad to see that they've been working on a second version and that they're ready to bring it to market.
It's important that we have a constant update of content. We are like the cinema industry in the free roaming sector. We're only as good as our last experience, our last game. And having the whole reason why you do a sequel is because people remember how good the prequel was. And in this case, Arizona Sunshine really was a gold standard back in 2018, 2019. It really did prove itself as a title that free roaming had a part to play. Shows you how much technology has moved on. Most people who played Arizona Sunshine the first time had a giant backpack PC on there to have to lug around with them. Now, courtesy of VR streaming, we have a much more streamlined product, and with a much more streamlined approach, we need to have the right games to make the most out of those. Anyway, that kind of covers all of the aspects for me. One thing to bear in mind in the coming weeks that we've got. We're in February now as we're recording this. Only a matter of weeks' time, we'll be jumping into March and into Amusement Expo. And there's some things to bear in mind that we're also crossing the point of, for some countries, their financial reporting periods. So, I've been touching upon some merger and acquisition business that's been happening. I can tell you from the stuff that we're sitting on embargo at the moment, or we've been given rumor of that there are some major developments that are going to be reshaping the out-of-home entertainment market coming in the next couple of weeks, and I look forward to reporting on that.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Kevin, for another great sound off. This has been number 62 for February the 18th. We'll see you on the next one.
Have a good one.